You ever find yourself scrolling through YouTube, hoping to find the motivation to make those lifestyle changes? Maybe you want to lose weight, but deep down, you just want to feel better, have more energy, and for life to feel more like fun instead of a struggle. In this video, I'm going to give you the steps I took to actually start a healthy lifestyle that sticks. Trust me, I've been in your shoes. For years, I kept searching, hoping for that magic little easy button that all of a sudden things would just start to click. But let's be honest, it can be quite confusing. You hear, oh, go plant-based and eat all the vegetables. And then maybe the next day you hear about the carnivore diet where you scrap the vegetables and eat only meat. And the big debate on is cardio king or is strength training. And don't even get me started on whether it's hormones, your age, or something else to blame. It's enough to make you quit before you even start. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be complicated. Let's talk about how to make a healthy lifestyle simple yet doable. Not perfect, not overwhelming, just steps you can actually stick with. Here's the thing that no one likes to talk about. The first step is actually acknowledging the pain of staying the same. Where is your current lifestyle and current habits causing you to suffer? You've got to acknowledge that because change isn't easy, but you've got to acknowledge the pain of staying the same. For me, this really hit home. I had to acknowledge that number on the scale that I had never seen before. I had to acknowledge that I woke up just as tired as when I went to bed. I had to acknowledge that my current lifestyle was making me feel like crap, and I was tired of it. I knew I didn't want to wake up 10 years later feeling the same or even worse. So let me ask you this question. What are you afraid of missing out on if you don't change? When I asked myself that question, it brought tears to my eyes. I was looking forward to the empty nest years, and I didn't want to miss out on the fun and excitement that Brady and I could have if we were feeling good. I looked down the road and I wanted to not miss out on dancing at my future grandkids' weddings because my dad didn't get to. And I knew I wanted that active last decade of life that I'd seen some of my relatives master and some didn't get the opportunity to do. I knew I wanted to age with strength and confidence. That's what gets me going when I don't feel like it and when it's hard. And let's be honest. Yes, it's simple to make these changes, but it's not always easy. But you know what's harder? Staying stuck. I get it that it's uncomfortable acknowledging where you are, but I promise you this is going to help you actually start making those changes. So after you've done that, then we move into the second step. We're going to experiment with tiny changes. And I say experiment, I don't say perfect. You don't even need massive changes to start to feel better. And quite frankly, those big changes don't often stick, but tiny experiments can. This is where I gave myself permission to fail forward. I wasn't going to say I'm wrong because this didn't work. I just kept experimenting till I found the right habit that was starting to show me some results. Because let's face it, if you keep doing these things and you never see anything improve, it's hard to keep going. So I knew I didn't have to start with diet. I didn't have to start with exercise. I started with my sleep. I knew I needed more energy to be able to make the other changes. Started supplementing with magnesium to see how that would affect my sleep. Once I got that and noticed that it was improving, then I started going to bed 30 minutes early until that became a habit. And I started noticing what made me sleep better and what didn't really have a difference. Cutting off caffeine at certain times. I experimented with that. Once my sleep improved, then I started approaching my diet. And I knew I didn't want to follow somebody else's plan for a diet. I wanted to make small changes that were doable to me. Adding one extra vegetable to my plate, a vegetable I actually liked, to see how I feel. Eating protein more first and lowering my carbs. Really paying attention to what foods gave me energy after a meal and what foods made me feel bloated and tired. I knew I didn't want to make a giant overhaul, so I took this slowly. I experimented with closing the kitchen after dinner and not eating until I woke up the next morning. All these were little experiments to see how they would actually make me feel. So here's where I want you to trust your gut. You know that small change that you need to make. And here's the important thing. Some experiments won't work, and that's okay. Failing forward is part of the process. I've learned that getting it right the first time isn't the goal. It's to keep learning and figuring out what's right for you. That's why in my consistency code course, I teach you to problem solve and adjust so you can keep going, even when things don't go as planned, because frankly, they rarely do. As you're experimenting with these tiny changes, that brings me to my third step. I want you to become the expert of your own body. Too many times we outsource our health to other experts, maybe the doctor that we see for 5, 10, 15 minutes, or maybe some diet guru on YouTube. I want you to become the expert of your own body. No one knows your body better than you do. Pay attention to how your current habits make you feel. And as you're experimenting, get curious. What is your body telling you? How do you feel after you eat that favorite meal? How do you sleep after scrolling at night? How do you sleep after drinking caffeine till a certain time? Your body is constantly talking to you, and sometimes it's in a whisper, but as time goes on and chronic disease starts to happen, it gets louder and louder. So pay attention when it's still at a whisper and make the changes. For me, I realized that sleep was more important than the afternoon coffee, and that certain foods just made me feel bloated and tired, and they didn't taste as good once I realized that. And I realized that an afternoon walk gave me way more energy than that afternoon cup of coffee or snack. Once you start noticing the patterns, it's easier to make choices that make you feel good now and in the future. Here's the key. I want you to think of this as like self-care. You're taking good care of yourself on the way back to feeling good. It's not that old diet mentality of whipping your body into shape, because as soon as that's over, you go right back to the old habits. But when you think of it as self-care, you acknowledge and know how good it makes you feel. So those habits are more likely to stick. It's about a gentler, more sustainable approach. Speaking of gentle, how you talk to yourself matters. You wouldn't let a friend talk to you the way your inner voice does sometimes, right? We've all heard that mean girl voice in our head. You're not doing enough. That's too little to count. You might as well give up because you're not going to stick to this. You've never been able to do this in the past. But let's flip that script. Instead of being super critical, let's get curious about how our body wants to change and start cheering yourself on for those small, tiny wins. You're figuring this out. You're experimenting. You don't have to be perfect. So cheer yourself on. You're doing this. You're experimenting. You're finding the way to make a healthy lifestyle stick. When you talk to yourself kinder, you're gonna stick with it because it's more fun and rewarding to keep going. But if you beat yourself up, you wanna throw your hands up and quit before you even get really started. Did you maybe take a short walk to the mailbox and back or around the block? Awesome. Did you swap the fries for a salad? Way to go. Did you eat an extra vegetable today? Amazing. Did you go to bed on time? Very good way of taking good care of yourself. This isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress and treating yourself like someone worth rooting for, because you are. If you've been here long, you know I love to tell you, you are worth the work to figure this out, to age stronger and healthier and rock that last decade of your life. But we have to face it, doing this alone is tough. Not impossible, but tough. Having help, whether it's a friend, a coach, or some system to follow, can make all the difference. Simple systems are game changers. Things like setting your workout clothes out the night before to make it easier to work out the next day, meal prepping on Sundays, or just making healthy food more convenient than those snack foods. They make the path easier so you can follow through even when you don't feel like it. And here's something I've learned along the way. Success leaves clues. One thing that made a huge difference for me was looking for women that were just a few steps ahead of where I wanted to be. But here's the thing, I didn't look for those skinny fitness influencers who had never struggled the way I did. I needed advice from someone who understood what it was like to be a midlife mama juggling everything. I wanted real, doable strategies that worked for someone like me. If that's what you're looking for too, I'm here to help. In my Consistency Code course, I share the systems, strategies, and support that worked for me. My hope is that this feels like something that you can do, because you can. It's not about quick fixes or perfection. It's about starting small, figuring out what works for you, and being kind to yourself along the way. If you're ready to take the next step, check the caption for details on my Consistency Code course. However you decide to make these changes, just start. Your future you will thank you for it. Remember, you are worth the work to live a life you love. If you like this video, you'll want to watch this video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.